or if it's,
Yeah, I understand.
the whole thing could be thrown out.
And what is the process? We just through an ordinance or?
Well, technically, this ordinance is within your zoning ordinance. It's a chapter of your zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
And we are also working, as I said, to revise your zoning ordinance. Not in any, it's more of a technical revision than anything concrete. It's not going to really change the way you operate. It's just going to change some language. And it would be good to coordinate both of those so they happen at the same time. So you only have to go through the process at the same time. I think you'd have to rightfully have two public hearings, one to announce that you're changing the zoning ordinance and one to announce that you're changing the sign ordinance chapter of the zoning ordinance. And the technical way that would go is that the planning commission would have to review it first. They haven't reviewed the zoning ordinance. So if the city wants to do both at the same time, the planning commission needs to review the zoning ordinance. That could take place at the next month's meeting. And then the city council would have a public hearing to get the public's input on it, and then they could, can you adopt it the first time? Do you have to have readings?
I think we do wait a second reading or something like that.
Okay, so then you go through your process after the planning commission were to have a hearing on it as well. And now, if they're, during the process of revising the zoning ordinance, a separate matter, if you all want to put more into that, if we want to talk about that and do some additional changes, it could slow down the adoption of both. So you may want to consider going ahead with the sign ordinance and then taking the zoning ordinance separately. But that would be up to you all, and I think Bob may have something to add to that as well. I think the county is wanting to look at the sign ordinance a little longer, so it may be that if you want to coordinate schedules with the county, you might be slowing down anyway. If that doesn't matter to you, then you can do it on your own schedule.
The county wants to make sure that the commissioners have a workshop just like y'all are having to really, so they're really informed on this. And also, they want to make sure that the business community really understands what this sign ordinance is about. So we're going to need to reach out to the business community before we are in a position to present this to the county commission. We're looking towards presenting it in August.
How much longer is our moratorium good for?
Well, we're going to have, the moratorium's good until next month, but
We may have to re-adopt it.
yeah, we're going to have to ask for a further extension on that. But I think it's real important that everybody understand that some people's signs are going to have to come down eventually, and if people feel real strongly that they don't, then I think they need to have the opportunity to express themselves before the county commission. And the county commission needs to know that if they go into this, that there probably is going to be some folks that down the road aren't too happy, and we want to just make sure they understand that this is going to hopefully, make the community look better, and I think that's the whole idea. But we want to make sure everybody is, try to inform everybody as well as we can what this is all about.
I think the problem with the whole thing is Marshall, because he's got to be able to enforce it. He's got to be able to read it, know what's legal, what's not legal, and get people to move, take them down. I mean, we can pass anything we want to pass, but unless Marshall does something, we waste our time.
Well, you're gonna be on
How does Marshall feel? I called it, I said,
you gonna wait until I don't like
it has to be enforced for everybody, not just for you.
That includes residential zones.
Jeff Sexton behind you's got a problem with signs in residential areas. What is the ordinance for residential areas?
Well, you go ahead.
Paul, what's it say about residential areas putting campaign signs up?
Let's see. Signs permitted in residential zoning 3 double-face signs per lot. No single sign face may exceed 6 square feet. Height is limited to 6 feet. And then C4 doesn't really apply because you don't have C4 subdivision signs, so I spoke of those. So I think that window signs are not permitted and wall signs are not permitted. So residential signs, they can have 3 double-face signs, and each one of those signs can be 6 square feet and 6 feet tall.
So I can have
6 signs.
a governor sign, a Secretary of State sign, and City
Right.
Council sign, but I can't have the 4th sign?
Yes, you can.
Well, you have to have one side of that 4th sign. I mean, you have 6 faces, so you can have 6 signs, basically.
You can have as many as you want.
Well,
Per state law.
OCGA 16758 A2
you
says,
can have as many as you want.
says size, number, and
And it's specifically
Wait, wait,
political
wait.
signs.
just political
there.
signs.
What is? That you
That,
can have as many as you
that
want?
ordinance, that you can have as many, that you can't restrict the number, the size.
Actually, it doesn't say anything about size. I checked today.
It doesn't, that's what I said,
Yeah.
number, size can't be
No,
restricted.
no,
It
the
can't.
the locals have the authority to regulate size
Size.
because it's not addressed in OCGA.
Yeah.
What they
Can you look
don't
at
have the
it, make sure
ability
it's
to address is the amount of
Just
time
look
it
at
can
that,
be
make sure
up.
it's
Yeah, I'll
bad.
do it, because I
The amount.
cannot imagine the attorney that developed this overlooked it. Because the power that the state has given local governments includes regulating all those things, so it would seem that if you're allowing someone to have 6 of those signs, that would certainly be. But what was the site on that? You got it? All right, we'll look into it. And if that turns out to be correct, we'll certainly add that, because.
It's been on the front page of the Lee County Ledger before.
I think they wanted it right.
Because it's in the newspaper.
Y'all wanted it right, right?
My questions on this, is there a way to better organize it? Because like I was just talking back here, he said, well, flip to the residential. Well, that's not the residential, because you go to residential and it doesn't say anything about flags, but flags are somewhere else in here and they're in residential.
Well-
Small signs are in residential, but they're not in residential. So, you know, for me, this ordinance, I'd like to see it organized a little bit better, where you have your definitions. You have a residential section that covers everything residential, and then you have a commercial section that covers everything non-permitted, and then a section that covers everything permitted. That way you know exactly where you stand.
I think this is a leap forward from what we had before. I think the one before was just unbelievably hard. And Marshall is nodding.
But I think they have the starts, it just needs to be better organized, so you're not jumping pages. I mean, you go to residential and it doesn't say anything about a flag, well, you put up a huge flagpole and I say, well, you're in violation. Well, no, because residential says I'm not. So then are you in violation or are you not? That's where you run into problems, and the organization needs to be there so everybody knows.
Well, I understand your point. I think part of the reason that it is like it is because everything is addressed once, basically. And to do it the way you're suggesting, which may be clearer, would increase the document probably.
Is there any way maybe, and I know this is a county IT question, really, but if we put it on the site, if we put it on the county website and we made it like an actual main nav page, we could then link everywhere. That way, in the print document, I'm not having to put everything multiple times. We'll just say, hey, refer to the website for verification. On the website, anything residential will be linked under residential.
Well, it's possible, but county resources, I'm not sure if they can devote that to that, and also that.
I can personally build that,
They'd
so
be
that's not a
opening
problem.
themselves up to, you know, if someone if they didn't incorporate everything in that one link that you clicked and you come into a meeting with what you think is everything, but you didn't read the entire ordinance, then it certainly has benefits.
And then you burn in, you talk about enforcement and stuff that's already there.
Go ahead and do it.
I went through this and looked at my yard, and I start out, look at my front porch. I got a home security system. It's got a small sign up by the front porch. Well, I turn the porch light on at night. That's indirectly lit sign. It's illegal in a residential neighborhood. Stuff like that needs to be covered.
But I think that falls into small signs.
Oh,
Yeah, it's under square foot.
Yeah, but there's a measure of common sense that's
Well,
going to be
that's
applied
not-
to this ordinance.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but the same thing, you say a small sign can't be higher than 3 foot. Well, I got a 4-foot fence. Albany Fence Company put a sign on my fence. It's a small sign. It's no longer in compliance.
But that comes
It's less than
into
1 square
play.
foot.
It's
Yeah,
less
Don't
than-
worry about it.
It's gotta be higher, it's gotta be
It's
lower than
less
3
than-
foot though. That's what I'm saying.
Thank
No,
If